Good morning, members, and welcome to this morning's conjoined meeting of all 4 divisional licensing boards, Friday 19th of November, commencing at 10 a.m. If I could turn to the agenda, please. The first item, if we could appoint the convener for this meeting.
Happy to nominate Archie if he's willing to do it.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry, do we have a seconder for that, please?
I think Davey said he would will to do it, Caroline.
I'll second it, Caroline.
Okay, so thank you for that, Councillor Driver. You appointed convener that after you make your presentation in relation to the live recording of this meeting, that we check that we are quorate in relation to all
It's
4
still
boards.
not working, Archie.
Thank you.
Mine's is working fine, Joe.
No,
Everybody else
Still
can
silent,
hear me.
son.
No, mine's is working fine. I think everybody else can hear me. Is that right?
There's your thing, Archie. If you're swearing to yourself.
So, convener, if you would just like to advise that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed.
Okay then. This meeting is. Good morning, members. Welcome to this conjoined meeting of Friday, 19th of November 2021 at 10 a.m. by remote hearing. I'm hoping that everybody can hear me apart from Jock McKee.
Great, Archie.
So, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
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 Fine.
Yep, can hear you well.
Thank you. So this meeting is being recorded and live streamed, and could I remind members to follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off their video when you're not addressing the meeting. Should you wish to contribute to any item, you should write speak in the Teams chat function or raise your virtual hand and you will be invited to speak in order. Should your question or issue be raised by previous speakers, please withdraw your request so that we deal with the business as efficiently as possible. Caroline, I think the first thing is to ask if everybody is, if we are all quorate.
Correct, convener. If I may, I will just go through our list of members in relation to all 4 boards. If I can turn please to Annandale and Eskdale Divisional Board, I will just go through our members like a tick list. So of course I can see yourself here, convener. Thank you. Councillor Carruthers. Is Councillor Carruthers with us today? Okay, I'll move on to Councillor Fairbairn.
I'm here, Caroline.
Thank you, Councillor Fairbairn. Councillor McClelland has submitted apologies. Councillor Thompson.
Present.
Thank you. So I'll just go back. Is Councillor Carruthers with us today? So we are quorate with 3 members. Moving on to Nithsdale Divisional Licensing Board, Councillor Hislop has submitted his apologies. Is Councillor Dempster with us today? Councillor Dempster? Okay, Councillor Lever has submitted his apologies. Councillor McKee?
Yes, here,
Thank
Caroline.
you. Councillor Murray?
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Stitt?
I'm here, Caroline.
Thank you. So we're quorate with 3. Moving on to Stewardship Divisional Licensing Board, Councillor Howie?
Yeah, Caroline.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell has submitted his apologies. Councillor Davidson? I believe he's submitted his apologies. Councillor Maitland?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And Councillor Young?
Yes, I'm here, Caroline.
Thank you. So we're quorate with 3. Moving on to Wigtown Divisional Licensing Board, Councillor McComb?
Yes, Caroline.
Thank you. Councillor Hagman?
Yep, I'm here too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hagman. Councillor Ingalls? Is Councillor Ingalls with us this morning? Okay. Councillor Sloan? Is Councillor Sloan with us? Councillor Surtees?
Yes, I'm present.
Thank you so much. So that's quorate with 3. So convener, we're quorate with all boards. I'll just, if I may, just go back and check that we have. Do we have? Is Councillor Carruthers? Has he joined us? Okay, there's no Councillor Carruthers. Councillor Dempster? There's no Councillor Dempster. Councillor Ingalls?
Yeah, I'm here. Apologies for my late arrival.
Ah, thank you. And Councillor Sloan? Okay, so convener, we can proceed now. Thank you for your patience. We are quorate with all boards.
Thanks very much, Caroline. So we'll move on to item 2. But we've had the apologies, and I will give approval of members' remote participation. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Okay. Then we'll move on to item 4, which is the Licence Scotland Act 2005 Dumfries and Galloway Licence Board Annual Financial Report 2021. The report is by the clerk to the boards. Caroline, do you want to take us through this?
Thank you, convener. So this report brings to your attention Dumfries and Galloway Licensing Board's annual financial report for the year 2020 into 2021. This is a legal obligation to prepare and publish by the end 3 months after the end of your financial year. So you're legally obliged to publish the statement no later than the 30th of June each year. However, interim coronavirus legislation permits publication by the end of the 31st of December of this year. You're only being asked to approve the terms and to authorise the clerk of the board to proceed with publication of this report. Members, the report is detailed at the appendix, and I'm happy to assist if I can. I'm not the report author, but I am happy to take questions if I may. What I will point out to members is that you will note that at page 3 of the report, in bold, the net income for the licensing boards, there is a negative £21,000 526. So basically for that financial year, the boards have run at a loss of approximately £21,000 compared to last year's statement, whereby we had a slight surplus.
Okay, thanks very much, Caroline. Members, any questions? Jane?
Thank you. Yes, just a quick one. Do we normally cover our costs? We did last year, or the year before, rather, and I just wondered whether that's a policy of the boards.
Thank you, Councillor Maitland. So we're legally obliged to ensure that our income and our expenditure are broadly equivalent. So in other words, that the balance sheets are indeed balancing, and normally they do balance. Last year's financial statement, we had a surplus of just over £2,000. The principal reason, in my view, for this deficit, which is rather substantial, is because of the coronavirus pandemic. Last year's financial statement was actually captured approximately 1 week of the pandemic, and then it was just a regular year. This year has captured the whole of the COVID period. So we're seeing, because we've had mandatory closure of licensed premises from the Scottish Government, we've had mandatory partial closures, and you can see that our premises licence fee income is substantially down. Our applications for occasional licences are down significantly, so the fee income can actually be tied to the pandemic, and we've ran at a loss, which is quite unusual.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, Caroline, obviously other organisations within the council are actually putting this down to COVID and trying to get some funding back off the Scottish Government. Are we trying to do the same?
I'm unable to answer that question, convener. I'm not aware, but what I can do is I can find out and get back to you after the meeting. Okay.
Jock McKee had his hand up, but
no, the question's been answered. Jane, it's been covered with Jane's question, Archie. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much, Katie.
Thank you, convener. You touched upon the point I was going to raise there, and that's about the funding that's available to services that have been impacted by COVID, and certainly the precedent has been set through the Finance, Procurement and Transformation Committee that where various services were struggling and required additional support, a request would come to the Finance, Procurement and Transformation Committee. And I'm wondering whether the team would consider that as an option, because the council was given funding to cover COVID. And there is funding available still. It was reported at the last meeting that there is unallocated funds available. So perhaps that's an avenue that this team could look at utilising.
Yeah, thanks very much, Katie. I think Caroline said that she's going to find out about that and then get back to this. Caroline, would it be possible to send all members of the licensing boards an email just to confirm that? Or
yes, absolutely, convener. So you'd like an approach to the Scottish Government and also the council?
Yeah, if you just go to the Finance Procurement Transition team and see if your losses can be covered with this, that'll be somebody may have already done this on your behalf.
Absolutely, and of course I'll update all members, all 4 boards, the response that I receive.
Thank you very much. I can't see any other member coming forward for any questions, so we go to the recommendation. The boards to approve the annual financial report for 2020-2021 as detailed in the appendix, and at 3.2 authorises the clerk to the board to proceed with the publication of the annual financial report. Are we happy to do that?
Agreed.
Thank you very much.
Agreed.
Okay, we'll then move on to item number 5, which is the Licence Scotland Act 2005 Dumfries and Galloway Licence Board Annual Functions Report 2021-19. Sorry, I'm reading this all wrong. 2020-2021, and report by the clerk of works. I'm reading it off the agenda. There's a wee bit of a mistake there, I think, Caroline. So, Caroline, are you taking us through this one as well?
Yes, thank you, convener. Again, although I'm not the report author, I do have Aideen Sloan, one of our team members, with us, and she'll endeavour to answer any questions, failing which I will try to assist, given that the report author is actually not in the office today. So basically, the annual functions report for the year 2020 into 2021. It's a legal obligation for the boards to prepare and publish this annually. Again, same as the annual finance report, no later than 3 months after the end of the financial year, being 30th of June each year. Interim coronavirus legislation allows a 6-month extension of that timeline to the 31st of December 2021. So with this report will be published on the board's webpage, and it's essentially a statement explaining how the board has had regard to the licensing objectives, their licensing policy statement, a summary of the decisions made by or on behalf of the boards during the financial year, information about the number of licences held under the Act, and any other information about the exercise of the board's functions. You'll note that the function report is detailed at the appendix. If you do have any questions, as I say, the report author isn't here today, but Aideen Sloan will endeavour to assist, failing which I will endeavour to assist. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I notice on the second page of the actual report that there is a slight downward trend in actual licences that have been given out. So it's not as high as I actually thought it was going to be. So I'm particularly pleased with that. And just on the back of that, can I thank all the staff in the licensing office for the work that you've done over the last year. It must have been difficult, but I'm sure it would be, appreciated by all the boards and the work that you've actually done.
Thank you, convener. That's appreciated.
Members, any questions? Can't see any questions, therefore we'll go to the recommendations. The board at 3.1 approves the annual functions report for 2021 as detailed in the appendix, and 3.2 authorises the clerk to the board to proceed with the publication of the annual functions report. Are we happy to approve that?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We'll then go on to item number 6, which is the Gambling Act 2005, Section 349, Preparation of Statement of Principles 2022 to 2025, report by the clerk to the boards. Caroline, you want to go through this again?
Yes, thank you, convener. So this is the Gambling Act 2005 to request the licensing authority, which is in Scotland, are the licensing boards, to approve and adopt your revised gambling statement of principles for the 3-year projected period 2022-2025, detailed at Appendix 1. So we have revised slightly the statement of principles. It's mainly been sundry very minor changes that we've not detailed in the report in terms of dates, perhaps a bit of change of terminology. In terms of any substantive changes, convener, paragraph 5.2 on page 17 of the report refers. I'm happy to take any questions, but effectively you're just being asked to note the terms of this report and just accept, approve and adopt it, and agree next steps to advertising and publicising it.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, any questions? We have Stephen.
Thanks, convener. It was actually just on the, I was interested, and it's maybe not for this meeting, but if it could be circulated separately, perhaps, just what responses we received from each of the consultees, because there is a list there.
I beg your pardon, Councillor Thompson. What I should have said was we received 2 responses to our 6-week consultation that we undertook. The consultation was from the 8th of September to the 20th of October 2021, and the 2 responses were received in relation to that consultation, and these are indeed appended to the reports. I'm just seeing if there's any actual pages there. Appendix 2 and Appendix 3, although it's actually not helpfully, there's not Appendix 2 and 3 written at the top, so I can't tell you what page because there's no page number either. It's the last 2 pages before item number 7. We received a response from St Ninian's Baptist Church and also from Independent Living Support. So 2 responses were received from the consultation.
Thank you for that. Yes, thanks, convener.
Okay, thank you very much. Caroline, I'm aware that we have discussed this before, and it's about, support for individual licensees who may require support for their employees or things like that. We are doing quite a bit of work with regards to mental health and well-being, and gambling actually comes into that category as well. I just wonder if there's any support through licensing that can be provided to licensees.
What I would say is, in terms of a legal framework for that, convener, I'm not currently aware, but the next item, number 7, the gambling harm pilot scheme, is of interest and is quite relevant to raising gambling harm awareness project, and I can go into details about that after this.
Great, thanks very much. And thanks, Jane, for putting page 52 on. Members, any other questions? Okay, we'll then go to the recommendations in. Members are asked to discuss the terms of this report.
Sorry, can I come in just for a second, please? Is that okay? Yeah, I think we should just acknowledge the fact that we have these two representations, and I think they highlight concerns which are very valid. I don't suppose there's a great deal that we can do about them, but I think we should certainly note it at this meeting that we acknowledge the issues that both these representations have highlighted.
I think that's right. We'll come to the recommendations, David. We'll get that in there, I think. So in the recommendations, we'll discuss the terms of this report and consider whether they wish to approve and adopt the revised statements of principle. I think we note on that recommendation the 2 consultees' responses, and 7.2, if approval and adoption are agreed, authorise the clerk and the board and his staff to arrange advertising and publication of the revised statements of principles and its notice of intention as legally required. Stephen?
Thanks. I see in the chat that Councillor Maitland's come in, but I don't know if that's in a different line, so I'm not sure if
it was just the page she was putting up on the notes.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Thanks, convener. Yes, it was actually just on, Caroline touched on it just because of the challenges in navigating the papers. Obviously, these are scanned PDFs, and we've had a couple of versions of them sent to us, and they're not necessarily very easy to use in a digital sense. It was really just a feedback maybe to our corporate team that could we try and make it easier for the licensing staff to maybe send their documents to the likes of Nick Evans, who can put them together in a modern Gov format so we can make easier notes and sort of refer to page numbers, etc. better. So it was more a technical point rather than a point of paper.
Okay, so that would be an action. Caroline, can you have a word with Nick on
Yes, absolutely. What I will say, Councillor Thompson, is without my hard copy papers in front of me, I'd probably be struggling myself. So absolutely, I will raise that with Nick Evans. Thank you.
Okay, and so we've agreed the recommendations on that. Is that agreed? Thank you. And then item 7 is the gambling harm pilot report by the clerk off to the boards. So Caroline, again after my questions there, so can you get us through this report?
Yes, thank you, convener. So this has actually been a very, very kind of positive endeavour. Basically, it's just to update you on this gambling harm pilot scheme that has been underway, of which Dumfries and Galloway Council has been a voluntary participant. The background is that in Scotland, many people are engaged in some form of gambling without any harm. However, some people and their families' gambling harm is a very serious issue with wide-ranging consequences, including debt, bankruptcy, loss of employment, family breakdown, crime, homelessness, physical and mental health issues, and tragically, ultimately, suicide. So basically, at the end of 2020, Solace, with the support of COSLA, facilitated 2 virtual roundtables involving the Gambling Commission to discuss ways to address the issue of gambling harm and encourage better compliance under the Gambling Act 2005. Citizens Advice Scotland also made an offer to provide training and support from the Gambling Support Service to address gambling harm within the workforce, and 4 local authorities in Scotland voluntarily participated in this gambling harm pilot scheme. The other 3, as I understand it, were Glasgow City, East Ayrshire and South Lanarkshire. So internally, a gambling working group within the council was created, and it met several times from August to October 2021 with the Gambling Commission. I can actually say I had members of our team, the licensing team and myself, had a meeting with the Gambling Commission this week. So it's not October, we're actually now into November. And it was just to agree a way forward with regard to implementation of this pilot scheme. As I say, the pilot scheme, the idea of the pilot scheme was partnership working to undertake compliance visits to gambling related premises in Dumfries and Galloway, but also for training and awareness raising and identifying perhaps employees within our organisation that may be suffering from gambling related harms. You'll notice at paragraph 2.5, the compliance visits, the purpose was to promote an insurance compliance with the Gambling Act and its associated regulation, and compliance training was given to licensing staff, including our licensing standards officers, in advance of the visits. And the training included focus on gaming machines and licensed premises such as betting shops and bingos and amusement arcades, and licensing staff also undertook 6 e-training learning modules. Compliance visits took place on the 4th and 5th of October this year, and Julia Farrell, our licensing standards officer, who's with us today, very helpfully to take questions from yourselves. She visited licensed premises in Wigtownshire and Stewartshire areas alongside a Gambling Commission compliance officer, and our other licensing standard officer, Michael Collins, also visited licensed premises alongside another Gambling Commission compliance officer. So Julia Farrell was here today and is very happy to give further details in relation to the visits. Can I just say the second strand of the gambling pilot awareness was that it was about training and awareness raising, as I say, in relation to colleagues within the council who may be suffering from gambling related harms. I understand that the council is currently promoting awareness of gambling related harms, and just as an example, convener, the appendix, we've printed out one such email that has been sent internally. I'll also say that Glasgow City Council very usefully held an online gambling summit on the 13th and the 14th of September this year. And it was actually very, very interesting, and I did manage to attend that for half a day. So this is just for information given, just to say that it is a very, very live issue. And I would suggest, convener, that members, if they wish, ask Julia Farrell, who's with us here today, our licensed standards officer, further questions in relation to the visits they undertook to premises. Thank you.
Perhaps, thanks, Caroline. And obviously, being the elected member on the Health and Wellbeing course, we had Citizen Vice along to look at gambling and the issues that they deal with as well. And I thought it was a really worthwhile opportunity. Julia, do you want to come in and just give us some of your thoughts on this before we take the members' questions?
Yeah, thanks, convener. As Caroline outlined, it started off by a voluntary approach that Dumfries and Galloway would take part in these trials, and the licensing standards officers completed the 6 modules online, which were very in-depth and did take quite a bit of time, so we gained a lot of knowledge. It's a complex piece of legislation, and we obviously need to be guided by the Gambling Commission, who's the primary enforcement authority for gambling in the country. We then had a half-day training session with the 2 compliance officers in Scotland and 2 senior staff from the Gambling Commission. That followed on, we had the 2-day visits, so myself and Scott Denham, one of the compliance officers, covered the Wigton and Stewartry areas, and Mickey Collins covered the Annandale and Eskdale. Police Scotland joined us at various points. We had an officer from Castle Douglas, we had one from Newton Stewart, one from Stranraer. So they were able to benefit from the instructions and the information the compliance officer was given me. So I really found it very, very useful to get the compliance officers from the Gambling Commission live with me on a visit to gambling premises, because their knowledge is obviously far greater than ours. We visited betting premises, the main 4 in Stewartry and the Wigton area. What we found were very minor compliance issues. We were very impressed with staff knowledge and the fact that they were able to point customers in the direction of help, timeouts, they can self-exclude, so they were very knowledgeable in all these issues. So far as the Wigton and Stewartry areas were concerned, we went to the family entertainment centres that are unlicensed by the Gambling Commission but licensed by the licensing board on the caravan sites. And what we found there was some of the information that should have been on the machines were missing, such as updated information on where to get help. It's a GAM Care, it's a body that can help people with gambling problems. Some of the stickers that are statutory that should be on the machines were missing. So that's all been taken forward by myself and by the Gambling Commission to try and improve standards from that side of things. Mickey also did a range of the betting premises, the bookie shops, family entertainment centres, which has got higher value machines. You can bet more on those machines, which they're more regulated, and children and young persons can't get access to those. The bingo premises in Dumfries was also visited. And yeah, so all in all, we had a meeting yesterday just to sort of discuss the findings. So I think both of us thought it was a worthwhile exercise, and I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Thanks very much, Julia, for that overview. Members, have any questions? Ian?
Hi, Julia. One area where I do have concerns, and it's not covered by the legislation, is are we having any inputs to schools? Obviously, I imagine that the biggest source of gambling is online gambling, and trying to regulate that is almost impossible. But do we have, is there any capacity to give inputs to schools and ensure that children are aware of the potential hazards?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Howie. I would agree. I think the online issue is far beyond our scope, obviously. What the betting premises were telling us, they've seen a downturn in the number of people that actually are coming into the shops. A lot of it is online. Insofar as the schools is concerned, the licensing office are not in schools with the education side of things, but I am aware that the police do run initiatives in the schools. So I can take that issue forward just to find out whether gambling's actually covered in those sort of education exercises. And if it isn't, then I agree it would be a good thing to be covered in future.
I can advise you that the Joint Health and Wellbeing Board have representatives from the Education Department, and they do advertising on it because of online gambling more than anything else. So there is that issue there. Jane, you wanted to come in?
Yes, very quickly, please, which is really about the level of crossover in the council between licensing and people who deal with problems in social work. You know, how joined up is that? Please.
Councillor Maitland, I can say that we don't have any contact with the social work team in that respect. So again, that might be something that we need to look at moving forward. Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, again, Jane, at the Joint Health and Wellbeing Group, there is social work representatives on that, and I think it's a good idea to perhaps, Julia, if you contact Stuart Clanahan to see who the representative is there, to see if there's something you can do together in that area.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that forward, convener.
Okay, thank you. Jim McComb.
Thanks, Chair. Julia, is it possible to access figures for comparison of premises-based betting and online betting, just to compare the scale of the two?
Councillor McComb, I'll need to, don't have those figures to hand. I can certainly liaise with colleagues in the Gambling Commission and see if we could get some sort of comparison.
Sorry, Julie, can I just interject here? Just Councillor McComb, are you asking how many betting premises we have in Dumfries and Galloway?
No, Caroline. I'm looking for comparison in the volume of online betting as opposed to premises-based betting.
Yes, of course. Yeah, so basically, online gambling, obviously, we don't have any jurisdiction over, so I'll let Julia say her piece in relation to raising that with the Gambling Commission. If I could just add what I learned from the Gambling Summit that Glasgow City Council held online, which I found very, very useful and insightful. And it was actually individuals speaking through their own learned and lived experiences as gambling addicts and how it had kind of destroyed their lives. And basically the outset of the pandemic has actually apparently significantly increased the amount of individuals who are online gambling at home. And I think that has probably led to a conflagration in gambling harm and problems rather than individuals actually going into gambling premises. However, us as a licensing board, as a licensing authority, we don't have any legal remit over that online gambling, if that assists. But I'll just leave Julia to, sorry Julia, just to see what you're going to say in relation to contacting the Gambling Commission.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there must be figures, Councillor McComb, that we can access, and I'm quite happy to take that forward and circulate to all board members.
Thank you very much for that, Julia.
Thanks, Jim. And just to confirm what Caroline was saying, with the training we've had with the Citizens Advice Bureau on this, the amount of online gambling has increased somewhat because of the pandemic, where people are in their house and using their handheld devices more and more for online gambling. So there has been a massive increase on that. Are there any other questions? Thanks, Councillor Fairbairn, for that comment. It is fantastic work, Julia. Very positive going forward.
Thanks for that, Councillor Fairbairn, and also thanks to you, convener, for your words with the licensing team during the pandemic. It's been certainly been an experience.
Thanks very much. Jimmy, you want to come back in, or is that a legacy hand?
No, Chair. I'm quite happy with the response from Julia and Caroline. Okay,
so thanks very much. Members, then we'll go to the recommendations, which is to note the terms of this report. Are we happy to do so?
Agreed.
Thank you very much, members. That comes to the end of the Conjoined licensing boards. Thanks for your input today, everybody, and have a nice weekend. And I'll bring the meeting to a close then.
Thank you, convener.